Hey everyone, it's the Reverend Jendi Burwell again. I've been giving a lot of thought to uh, the habits of prayer, the kind of daily offices, the morning prayer, the monastic kind of stuff. Now, my background is I did not grow up in the church, okay, in no way whatsoever until I was 32. I did, however, grow up on a farm. And in different seasons, different times of the year, we would have a different rhythm. There was milking season or winter or calving season. And so we were quite determined or quite sort of by the clock. So, when the sun came up, the sun came down. Um, Often stuff wouldn't be done in the heat of the day because it was too hot. So we could kind of schedule our time in a farming kind of way, 40 plus years ago. Then, of course, I went to uni. I got a professional job. I've lived in Auckland since I was 15. And, we live so differently. The lights are on, the TV's on, we don't close the shops or whatever, for certain kind of things. And so we can kind of just go 24/7, just work, 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 get up and work till like all the time. And now that we're at home with lockdown, maybe that's even more so. If you're working, you can work all the time. If you're parenting, you be working all the time. And if you're not, but you're retired, but you're not seeing grandchildren or you're not in your normal flow, it kind of goes all out the window a bit. And so I've been rethinking about the daily offices and the morning prayer and the monastic style of life and wondering if we can get some of that back. The sun comes up, the sun comes down. That's a fixed kind of time schedule. In the winter, we have longer nights. Maybe we're meant to hibernate a little. And so I wrote down, and I was intrigued by monastic habits of 7 times a day, pausing and stopping for prayer. Now, whether that's the ritualized prayer that you have to do a certain thing, or whether that's the pausing, taking a deep breath, turning to God again, or turning to the more, the divine, being grateful, and then turning back to your work in various forms. So I've made a list of when they used to be because I could not find, to me it's a bit like how many times are we meant to ring the bells for church? How far before church starts? It seems it's different in every place. And this idea of morning prayer and stuff seems to be too. Different communities seem to do it at all sorts of different times. And maybe that's okay because we're all meant to make this stuff ours. But I did go back because how do you make things yours if you don't know what the normal pattern is? So I went back and I made a list. Let's see if I can hold this up here, and there you go. Hopefully you've seen it or sort of seen it. Roughly the 7 pauses were matins or vigils, which was in the middle of the night. Like people got up and prayed in the middle of the night. Then, funnily enough though, our bodies actually wake us in the middle of the night if we're using more of the natural sleep patterns and natural daylight work patterns rather than so much electric bulbs and TVs and stuff. So if nowadays people wanted to pray matins or vigils, it's pre-dawn. Okay, so it's that kind of middle of the night, pre-dawn. Then there's, I think it's Lord's, or morning prayer. And so traditionally that would be sunrise. So you wake with the sun and you welcome the day. You say morning prayer, okay? And how you do that, we can help you out with that later, or but you do something to welcome the day. Then there are 3 little hours, like the baby pauses. Terce, or the 3rd hour of the day. Set, or the 6th hour of the day. Possibly midday prayer is that one in our prayer book. And then non, or the 9th hour of the day. So kind of like morning tea, lunch, and afternoon tea. Because if you're working or you're living, you've got up at dawn, you've welcomed the day, you've gone and done a couple of hours of work in any capacity that work might be for you, and then you take a pause. Take this little micro pause that we all know is super important. We call it morning tea maybe. You take 15 minutes to just and then move on. And so the midday prayer is kind of in the middle of that, and I really like that. I'm not quite so great at the terce and the non. I'll have my coffee at morning tea time, but But so midday prayer is a chance to pause. And we know it's really important to stop, to eat some food, to stretch your legs, go for a walk, breathe some fresh air. Don't just work right through the day, but to actually stop and eat and take a moment. Well, of course, prayer is a part of that take a moment as well. And again, whether that's a ritualized prayer, which is great and super helpful, and millions of people all around the world will be doing it, so how cool to be a part of that. Or whether it's a 10, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, you do you. Chance to take a moment in the middle of the day. You will be more productive in the second half of your day for doing that. How amazing that these ancient faith traditions have been doing stuff that is fundamentally good for us for so long. I was excited when I discovered the Christian faith. Then there is Vespers, or evensong, or evening prayer. So this is the one that maybe is traditionally done about twilight, about sunset. As you imagine, you've done your day, the sun is now starting to set. That aspect of the day is over. Yeah, we can all turn lights on now and keep going for hours, but our bodies and our rhythm of life is actually, that part of the day is done. And so evensong, or evening prayer, is about that. And we enter into the next part of the day, which for most people, let's say the work day is over and you're going home and doing a whole lot of different kind of work. But it's that transition. So much research has now said that this third space, or this, transitioning time, is really important. Well, even when we're in lockdown, if we're going to finish our work, whatever that looks like, at a certain time of the day and go, okay, that's done, we have rituals. Some might have a glass of wine, some might turn a certain TV program on, some might go for a run, some might, I don't know. But we have rituals already to mark the end of that part of the day. And so for thousands of years, so have religious people or spiritual people or monastics or whatever. We can mark the end of that part of the day with the ritual that we call evening prayer. Then there's the really interesting one at the end of the day, the end of the day. So compline, or night prayer, is the one that's right at the end of the day. just before bedtime. And it has a different flavour about it, again, because you're moving into a different part of the day. It is then traditionally followed by the great silence. So then you've finished, there's the great silence. Sounds lovely. And of course, then you go and, you get into the vigil or the matins or the pre-dawn again the next day. But there is this rhythm to life each day. And then, of course, there's a rhythm on a weekly basis or a monthly basis and an annual basis. And we'll talk about those some other day. But I want to invite you to look at your calendars, to look at your to-do lists, to look at the stage of life you are in, because it is different for different people. But think, what could be a daily rhythm that's sustaining for me? Now, it might not be, and probably won't be, all 7 of these things, because that just seems intense, like you're just putting more and more in. But of course you're not. Some of this is just take a moment, take a deep breath. It's life-giving, not life-draining. But maybe there are 1 or 2 of these 7 pauses through the day that you could play with, add to your day, introduce, and then we can help and discuss about ways to do that. Maybe it's art-based. But I invite you for now to just rethink of these things, the 7 sacred pauses through the day, and then see how you can adapt that to suit your life, your bubble, your colleagues. How can some of this add something to your life? To have a fullness of life is a great thing. And so I invite you to consider these. I've got so many books about monastic style of rhythm that it's just ridiculous. One that I have found really useful lately is this one, 7 Sacred Pauses, because it takes the traditional monastic or the traditional prayer times and kind of puts it into today's language a little bit more. And so that's quite helpful. Anyhow, that's my Monday morning musings, if you like. We as a community will look at which of those can we do together. However, note how difficult that might be, because we all rise into our day at different times. We all end our days in different times at different places. We all may want to engage with these pauses in different ways. So as we ponder that as a community, I invite you to consider that and how that might be good for your life in ways that you can kind of work out and work through. God bless. Until next time. See ya.